So, we get it, Paul. Writing blurbs is hard. So, if you had one piece of advice for us beyond, hey, write a lot, what would it be? Let's talk about that this episode 92 of Horrible Writing. That will never work. You can't push that. Seriously? Don't. Oh my God, that's other things you can do. That's bad. You probably should find other hobbies. You ever learn how to spell? Stop. Be happy. Don't bother. I've seen better papers. Do you really want to shoot? And my third grade, get up. Welcome to Horrible Writing, the rawest, most candid, in-your-face writing show on the interwebs because none of us have time to suck. Let's do this. Hey everybody, Paul Sadie, your host, Horrible Writing. I hope this finds you very well. So, blurbs, this is going to be the last time I talk about them until my next book. And I go through this again, I promise. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to talk about them. I'm so tired of blurbs. But to you, the Horrible Writing audience, we need to have this conversation. So I want to finish it up with a short episode that I think will be helpful to you as you move along your journey, your writing journey. It is something that I'm going to incorporate myself. So I figure once again, if this is something that I need to do or am going to do, why not share it so other people can at least roll it around in their head and see if it works for them or not. So here's the thing. If you haven't sat down to do this because finishing the writing of that book is your primary focus, great. You need to focus on that thing then. Might be a step too far to start worrying about the things that come after because the damn book isn't done. I get that. Here's my experience and the experience of a lot of people. I think almost to a person, they will talk about this, authors, I should say, to an author. Taking a 50,000 word and up book and condensing it down into 100 to 200 words is tough. It's not easy. And even when you think you have it as tight as it can be, you test it in a couple markets, and fans are great. Fans will just tell you they got bored or they liked it, right? And some of them will tell you where they got bored in the blurb. But that's about it. You can't really do much with that. You can't fix things with that. It's testing it with writers is where you get it. You'll get that feedback. You'll get that constructive criticism that shows you where you wander. If you introduce too much, if you don't introduce enough, if you have no conflict involved, if you don't communicate the stakes, those things, right? They're great. Authors are great for that. But here's the thing that you're going to come to experience as you move around in your author journey. The longer you wait to write that blurb, the more you know the story, the more you know of the story, and condensing all that stuff down into a blurb is going to be difficult. So, here's my challenge to you. Start writing your blurb before you write your book. Now, how can you do that? That's crazy. You haven't written the book yet. It'll change. I have no idea what's going to happen. All right, I get all of that. Now, with the exception of true pantsers, those people who just sit down, put the fingers on the keyboard and go, and probably only have an idea of how a story starts, the rest of us have at least some form of outline. And I'm being very liberal, very generous with this description. Some people outline a lot. 20, 30, 40 pages of outlines. Crazy. I can't even imagine. If it works, great, but I cannot imagine it. That would drive me nuts. But I also do outline, a major bullet for each chapter and then some sub bullets that I have to hit in the plot in each of those chapters as it's called for. Even if those of you who are true pantsers, you never outline a single thing, this is something that you can do. When you sit down, you've got your outline, whatever extent that is developed to, and you know, even you pantsers, you know what kind of story it is, what you're going to kind of do with it. Before you type word number 1, in the beginning, right? Before you start doing that, sit down and write a blurb. Again, it's 100 to 200 words, so it's not going to take very long to do. And see what you come up with the formula that I gave you earlier. Don't spend a whole lot of time on it, because this is going to change massively. This is almost a brainstorming exercise that I'm asking you to do. Write a bullet, the headline or the attention-getting headline in your blurb, whatever we would first see in Amazon, and then introduce us to the protagonist, the antagonist, the conflict, what's at stake. You might not even know. An idea might come to you halfway through writing the blurb, but at the very beginning, before you write word number 1, if you do this, you'll start thinking, you'll start processing, and you'll have that. The nice thing about doing that is it gives you some kind of idea of the story, the highlights of the story, right? While they're fresh, before you get bogged down into the story. Because right now, unless you are a 20, 30,000 word outliner, and there are some people who do that, besides those folks, the rest of us have an idea of who the players are and what's going to happen. But we're not our brain isn't so oversaturated with the details that we've lost the highlights of the story. And that's why I feel, and I'm going to test this out with my next book, that writing the blurb first will be extremely helpful. Yes, it will change. By the time you type the end and slap that thing up on Amazon or send it to an agent or whatever, it's going to be different. Totally get that. But that's not the point. The point is to get that framework set. Keep it in that folder with the story. Have it there to reference it. When you're going back through the edits, update it as you write. Update it. Don't get bogged down. So I say that with a hint of caution that this would be great to do, but also don't get lost in the pursuit of writing the blurb before the book's done. This might be helpful to some folks, especially those of us who haven't done a whole lot of blurbs and we're struggling with it. Just try it. Just try it. Anybody. You got 10 words or you've got 110,000 words. Try it now and then set your path for that next book. When you get to it, is this something I'm willing to do? Let me try it. There's nothing to lose except for a couple minutes of time writing that blurb. That's it. Then you move on. So I hope you find that helpful. Just like all the advice on the show, I hope somebody finds this stuff helpful and encouraging. For me, I think it's much more manageable. It is encouraging because it can get discouraging writing and rewriting those blurbs. If you found it helpful, please leave a rating and review wherever you get the show, especially now that Apple Podcasts is doing their thing. So wherever you get this, if you can leave a rating and review, please go do so. Also, you want to support $1 a month? Boom. Patreon.com/pulsating. You get exclusives there. And of course, if you are a writer, an author, an aspiring author, a poet, a memoirist, whatever, you just like writing and hanging with cool people, if you don't use Facebook for anything else, still come over to the Horrible Writing Writer Support Group on Facebook. You can literally type it in the search bar at the top of your Facebook page or app, and you can come find us. Answer the questions, please, so we can actually let you into the group. Those people who don't answer the questions don't get allowed in. And until the next episode, keep being epic. This has been Horrible Writing, and hopefully after this episode, you suck less than you did at the beginning. I am Paul Sading, your host extraordinaire. You can find me over on the Twitterverse at Writing Horrible and over at paulsading.com/horrible-writing. Until next time, suck less.